Hey guys, what's up? It's Olivia. Welcome back to Olivia's grad school vlogs, where I like to share my experience as a media effects graduate student at Penn State. So just 2 weeks ago, I defended my thesis, so I am all done with my master's program. But there were 6 mistakes that I have identified that put me like 6 weeks behind in the writing and defense process. I wanted to share those with you today so that you don't make the same mistakes while you're writing your thesis, and now I know these for when I'm writing a dissertation in a few years. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up and go ahead and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Mistake number 1 happened when I scheduled my thesis proposal defense. So during October, I had my drafts all ready, I had my pre-test stuff all ready to go to show my committee and say, okay, this is what I want to do for my actual thesis. What I did that was a mistake is protocol. You're supposed to give your committee members 1 to 2 weeks to read your paper. I ended up getting stuff mixed up. I gave them like 3.5 to 4.5 weeks to read my paper. So I sent out an email on October 17th and said, hey, can we schedule a date between November 6th, November 13th? My thought process was, oh, it's going to take them a week to get back to me, then I'll schedule the meeting, and then from there they need 2 weeks. But I don't think I needed to do it that way. So that already put me several weeks behind. Next mistake that I made was I accidentally let my pre-test IRB paperwork expire before I made the final change. So here's what happened. I did all the IRB paperwork, but we had it submitted under my advisor. I did not realize that I could go on CAT's IRB, and since I was still listed as one of the investigators, I had access to it. I didn't realize that. So my advisor had been sending me emails, hey, they want this updated, hey, can you give them reasoning for why you're only using females versus males? And then she sent me an email and said, okay, they need one more thing, can you go ahead and upload this? So I was like, yes, sure. So that's when I realized, oh, okay, I actually have the power to like go on and upload. By the time I went, the session or the paperwork, something expired. So what happened was the IRB person didn't look at it again. So then we were on hold, and a very simple pretest that should have taken 2 weeks got approved, did not get approved until December 6th. I submitted the original paperwork on October 18th. That again put me several weeks behind because I could have been collecting data, but instead I was waiting to try to get their attention again to say, hey, can you please continue to look at my study? I submitted all the stuff you wanted. The third mistake I made was not having a backup when it came to where I was going to get my participants. So the Bellsara College of Communication, this is the first year that we had a SONA subject pool. And so my plan for the pretest and my actual study was to use that subject pool. Well, in the middle of fall semester, the IRB was like, hey, we need to approve your subject pool, so you need to stop all experiments that you're running, and we're gonna get back to you at the end of November. So end of November comes, they still don't get back. They say, okay, we're gonna have this issue resolved by mid-December. Like, okay, as long as I get it done by the next semester, we'll be good. Well, come January, at this point my advisor was like, okay, I think we need to just run your pre-test on Amazon MTurk and then hope that it gets approved in time for when you run your actual study. Because at this point I had approval by December 6th and was doing nothing with the study that I could run. Finally, mid to late February, the subject pool got approved. My IRB paperwork for my actual study got approved. But because the subject pool got approved so late, students weren't really signing up for it. So I was emailing individual professors saying, hey, can I use your students as participants? And about half of them got back to me and said, well, our classes are uploaded on SONA, so just upload your study to SONA. And I had to say, yes, technically your classes are there, but only 20 students out of the 2,000 that are signed up for it have actually filled out the paperwork and say they're ready to do studies. So what I ended up doing is going to, like I said, individual professors. I had a few who said, yes, you can run the study on my class. And then I gained about half my participants through MTurk. I gained maybe 20 through the SONA system. But again, this is something that put me behind because I thought I was just going to be able to put it up, and instead now I was spending a week contacting people, going to Amazon MTurk, going through all of that craziness. Now, my next mistake comes when I was finally collecting the data. what I should have been doing is writing up a mock results section, because you know what test you're going to run, and then you can just go in, plug in the numbers, and then add post hocs if you need to, depending on what your data is telling you. It could have saved me a day when then I was finally going through and writing all this stuff that I didn't even need my data for to be writing it up. Mistake number 5. So I had thought that I needed to send that and the brief discussion section to my advisor for the next round, but it turns out she only wanted the results section. This put me behind 2 to 3 weeks, because what happened was before spring break I got the results section done, but I didn't have the discussion done. So I was like, you know what, I'll just do the discussion once I get back from spring break, it's okay. So I have it done before spring break. Week of spring break I do nothing, and then it takes me the next week to write the discussion section. And the discussion section isn't perfect, but it's like, okay, here's kind of where I'm starting, here are my thoughts on it. I then send it to my professor. This is when COVID starts and is happening. So about 10 days later, she gets back to me and says, hey, I took a look at the results. I think we should run this as a covariate, and I think we should run some mediation analyses, And so she didn't even look at the discussion section. All she needed was the results section, because then I had to make more changes to that before I even started the discussion. So I wasted several weeks. I could have just done the results, sent it to her. She could have gotten back to me over spring break. I could have gotten her the next stuff. And instead, it was now the first week of April when we were finally going through, okay, here's what I should be doing in the results section, and here are some interesting findings. Alright, I have one more mistake to tell you about, and then I also have a couple of little insights, things I wish I would have known before I started this process. So the 6th mistake that I made was I was running a moderation analysis using Hayes process macro in SPSS, and I was doing model 1, so it was really, really simple. And my advisor had sent me the book as a PDF version and was like, hey, this tells you how to work process. I didn't realize that this book also told you how to read the output of it. So I was looking at this more as to how do I set it up, which variables am I plugging in where. And so I did that, and then I had this sheet of results, or the output on SPSS, and I had no clue how to interpret it. So I spent, I don't know, a good 4 days straight just watching YouTube videos trying to figure out how to interpret the output. So as you can see, these mistakes definitely set me behind weeks, if not months, in the thesis writing process. I now have 2 points to tell you that I discovered while I was writing my thesis that I think will help you as well. So the first thing is continue to check new research that's coming out in the area that you're doing your study on. I had an idea for this study. I've had it since fall 2017 when I was in undergrad in my media effects class. 2019 in November, after I had already done my thesis proposal defense, a study came out that basically was doing the exact same thing. I'm glad that I found that, because then I was able to add the pictures as another condition, so it was a replication plus an extension of a study. So keep an eye on that, because it's possible people are already doing that, or maybe there's a study that comes out that completely explains a result that you were like, why did this happen? Another point that really helped me was right before I was running my actual study and getting IRB approval and all of that, I was kind of freaking out on some of the measures that I was using. I was altering some of them as well as making up some of my own. And so I was being really just meticulous and going back and forth. Oh, how should I do this? Oh, what order should I run these, etc. And one of my committee members goes, Olivia, a done thesis is a good thesis. Just get it done. Obviously, you want to get it done as best as you can, but she was like, all of us with every study we run could just keep going back and forth and editing things and refining it more and more and more, but then we would never run another study. She said, this is your first study that you're running by yourself. It's not going to be your best study. It's not going to be your last study. You're going to learn a lot from this process, and what you learn from it will inform future studies. So don't put pressure on yourself that this has to be some groundbreaking, amazing, genius work. Just do your best without overthinking, get it done, and learn from the process. So that is my video, 6 mistakes I made during my thesis writing process that put me quite behind, and then 2 extra little tidbits that I personally found helpful during the thesis writing process. If you have any tips or mistakes that you made as well when you were writing your thesis, please leave it down in the comments below so that we can all learn from it. Like I said, I'm taking these as I write my dissertation a couple years, trying to keep this in mind when I'm going through that process. I recently put up a video about my timeline of the thesis writing process, so if you want to see specific dates or what times of year I was going through each step, go ahead and check that out. In the meantime, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, keep dreaming out loud, good luck on your thesis, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!